You'll have to forgive the long delay that's been present since I last covered Shinedown in regard to the newest album, Planet Zero. I started with that first song, of course got that music video, which was excellent in my opinion. I still love the song. It's a top play on my playlist. It's been ever since. But I figured at the time, I did see that they had put out this new track called The Saints of Violence and Innuendo. I figured, I'm going to cover it anyway, but I haven't had the opportunity. And then I thought the album had already released. So I'm like, well, it's going to be really late every way. I'm still going to cover it, but I'm just really late to the party. But apparently the album has been delayed. I'm not sure exactly why, but now it's coming out on July 1st. So we now have an official release date. I remember at the time, I don't think we did, or maybe I don't remember exactly. But either way, we have a new Shinedown track. And this album, since that first track, has proven to be incredibly dynamic. I mean, Shinedown has been a favorite of mine for several years. For all their releases for the most part. But they've addressed some different subjects within the context of their other albums. But that Planet Zero was just so assertive. And the track overall it was a great sound to it as well. It had that rock edge that I love. I know they've played around with some different styles within their larger body of work, but I do tend to prefer the harder rock and metal edge, and it had that. The key that they picked too was more of it like a troublesome nature, not like in the context of the realization of a song, but just intentionally for the artistry of the piece. And have it blended with the theme, I just thought it was a really good addition. Great tune. Made me very excited for the rest of the album. And now we have The Saints of Violence and Innuendo, which I believe from what I've seen is continuing the more intellectual nature that this album has prioritized. Like that last song was all about, it was sort of like a commentary on cancel culture. And now we have, I've done a bit of background research, but apparently this one is going to be addressing different agendas and authenticity that might be lacking when it comes to our well-established parties and how they voice their concerns. And I'm sure we can extrapolate that to any which way, but I think it's a good fit for the album. I'm imagining probably all these tracks are going to have some sort of like substantive edge to them in regard to the message. But let's go ahead and take a look at the song itself. I'm going to go ahead and cue it up. And for those of you who this is the first introduction, maybe you've never listened to Shinedown before. If so, welcome. I hope to, as I've stated many times this channel when it's come to music coverage, which is a relatively new addition for me. I've tended to cover more stuff within the visual aspect of culture and art in the entertainment space, but music has been a first love for me for a long time in my life, and I've always wanted to talk about it. I just hadn't driven that direction for a very long time when it came to this channel, but ever since Starset, I've wanted to do more. And like I've said for a long while, Starset was the doorway into me covering a lot more music on this channel. I'm very grateful for that, and ever since, it's just something that I've always loved to do. So let's go ahead and take a look at The Saints of Violence and Innuendo. We can listen to it together the first time. I'll pull up the lyrics, of course, for your convenience. I'm not sure. Well, we'll see. But either way, you're going to have visibility to the lyrics however I decide to do it. All right, here we go. Let's continue on with Planet Zero. So far, again, I think the album is really good. Okay, we got that rough style again. That's nice. That's good. Definitely a lot of lines of some of their past stuff from different albums. I mean, I'm trying to think of specific tracks in mind, but it's a little less, a little subdued in comparison to Planet Zero. That's not bad. That's a really good guitar when I think about it and how it plays into the message. Yeah, this one is more message-driven. If I didn't know any better, whoever formed the lyrics, it's like you read this and like someone's pissed. Rightfully in some departments. just pretty smooth. And by the way, speaking of Starset, I know I brought them in regards to the last song we listened to. What's up all the space imagery? First we had like the interlude sound effects, and now we got this. Maybe it's also based on like Planet Zero, but either way, it's really funny. Because there's been like distinctive sound cues. I mean, it Starset plays around with more of these intellectual messages too. It's like, be careful, watch your back, Starset. Shinedown might be coming for you. Yeah, all's fair though. It's competition. Even if it is a bit softer style, you know, Brent Smith's voice, I've always loved it. And that title is a really good match. You know, admittedly, when I read the lyrics, because I sometimes tend to read the lyrics in advance of listening to the tracks, but when I read it for the first time, I was kind of like, well, you know, to me, it didn't have the potency that Planet Zero did. And I still think, you know, in the way that Planet Zero was being so direct in its assault on cancel culture, it was great. And they were doing it from, like, again, a broad lens. It wasn't necessarily directed from, like, one opinion side or the other, and they, you know, made several delineations of like how it could be attributed, as we often do. But you know, I'm purely against cancel culture for many of the same reasons. Even though I should have said in that video, I don't know, I've been a critic of, you know, cancel culture for a long time. Largely, well, I haven't necessarily been the biggest voice on it for like many years. It was until the Gina Carano firing that really spurred me on. But because I mean, that was horribly insidious what happened to her. It reeks. Anyway, for me, you know, I read the lyrics and listened to that song for the first time, and ever since it really occurred to me, you know, it's like I've always been in that mindset, right? And the way that here we go. Now I'm going to mix up their names. But it's like, okay, well, we'll get to that in a minute. But the way that Shinedown directed their assault on cancel culture so directly, I just loved it. I'm like, you know, as somebody who, and again, I didn't say it this way, but it's true. As somebody who has known cancel culture, not in the same way, I would say I knew, well, I'm familiarized with cancel culture, but I'm much more familiar to its later cousin, which is much more detrimental in form. Essentially what cancel culture can possibly lead to, or you could say at the very least what it mimics. I'm very used to it's related. I know it's relatives. All too personally, which I think is part of the reason I've been so assertive, even beyond just the whole Gina Carano thing. I think it's kind of what spurred me on with the Gina Carano thing, to be honest with you, is that I know the effect of cancellation long before direct cancellation socially existed and was seemingly fun. I have a bit of a deeper window. And I admired that, again, Shinedown was so direct on that. But the first time I read the lyrics for this new song by Saints of Violence and Innuendo, it just didn't have the push or the throttle that I thought Planet Zero did. I think maybe because of the subject matter. But now that I listen to the song is actually a very good accompaniment, and the title really does fit. But I have to say, in terms of the overall presentation, what is this of like, I said this from the very beginning, when I looked at the first promo, in fact, for the album, and they were teasing out there's going to be a new Shinedown album, and this is sort of kind of our little cue as to get people excited about it, or just even introduce it. They put out all these little icons, and I'm like, okay, that's what Starset's done, you know, for like all their albums. They have these special little logos that they use. For those of you who aren't familiar with Starset's, I know I mentioned the person on the video, but maybe somebody like, who's Starset? Well, I'd recommend listening to them, number one, but they're a rock group with more sci-fi bent to them, but they're very good, extremely talented musicians. They utilize a lot of mixtures of styles within their stuff, and it's fabulous. I love them. I've covered them, in fact, quite a bit on this channel since Divisions. I covered, Horizons, their newest album, outright, the whole thing. But anyway, it was such an enjoyable listen. Still is one of my favorite albums from them. But as I stated with SHINEDOWN, their first promo had all those little icons that Starset's known for. And then we had Planet Zero, which the ending of it had like these outros that Starset's known for in regard to the way that it transitioned from one track to the other. It was like, what are we doing here? And now you have this song, which is all like space-based. I mean, granted, again, Planet Zero is the name of it, but I'm like, what is the deal with all these Starset analogies? Maybe they don't mean it. I'm just like, it's kind of funny. And what will the next track be like? And then you have the intellectual themes to boot that you have to dig more into analysis of. So, I mean, I don't know, but I don't know where that's going. But overall, I like the general track, and I do. I think this album's got a very good feel to it. I would imagine we'll probably get another single. I mean, we've got a couple. It's late May as I'm looking at this, so we've got a bit. We might have another track that comes up just to rotate again the album and get people back hyped about it, being like, oh, it's releasing July 1st, because again, they did change the release date from what I understand. But I imagine if there's another track, of course I'll cover it. But I would think there's another one coming. But overall, this was good. I think the lyrics, in terms of, like, again, the brashness and listening to it in the song, fits better. I think maybe it's just because the style helps to elevate it. Even if it's a bit more subdued from Planet Zero, just slightly. Planet Zero is just so aggressive, though, in regard to both the topic and the tune itself. But this is good. I think it's a good mixture of sound that they're known for, especially what's been pre-established in other albums. But the lyrics themselves, you read it, are pretty direct, kind of in their own way. It's just a different message. But I think this album is going to be a very interesting compilation of many different things. And if all the other tracks continue down this vein of where the first two have, I think it's going to be a pretty dynamic release. But what would you say for those of you who are maybe first-time listeners, as I said, to SHINEDOWN? Did this elevate your interest and maybe, serve as a good introduction to listen to them going forward? Or maybe for those of you who are listening to this are long-time SHINEDOWN fans, this, provoked some thoughts. Let me know what you feel down below. But long story short, I'm excited for the new album. I think this is a great number track to add into the list. I'm excited to hear more. Quite a bit. However long it takes to get the album or whatever it feels like. Maybe they'll move the release date again. Who knows? But I think it's good. I think it's going to be a killer album. I think so far we've had 2 tracks and they've both been pretty promising. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.